Congressman Rohrabacher and I will have to be resuming our voting and
as Tom mentioned, we have to go back to work, and I thank Joe and Shirley for all the work they put into this, and rest assured that we are on the side of oppressed people wherever they are. We are against oppression. We're against mistreating people, and to the degree that anyone is mistreated in Montenegro, it's our business. And just as we say, we expect people in Kosovo to be treated equally as well, and that's the way we build a better world. And we got to make sure that the corners of the world that we don't see come into view in order to deter bad people from doing things. So anyway, bad people who want to do bad things, we're going to know about it, and America's on the side of the good people. So that's all we have to say. Thank you.
Our next witness will be Shirley Cloyes, Balkan Affairs Advisor of the Albanian American Civic League.
I think that Dana Rohrbacher's comment earlier today is very important for all of us to remember, and I was glad Congressman Rohrbacher was able to join us on a very difficult day for California and members of the California delegation. He said that this briefing is absolutely critical because it tells Serbia and Montenegro that the U.S. government is watching. And I would add that it's critical because it tells the entire international community that we are going to be watching human rights abuses and the gap between a government's professed positions and adherence to international law and its actions. Part of the problem, I think, in the international community and in the development of our foreign policy, which is the main thing I'm going to address, and I'm going to hand my comments for the record and summarize them here, is that I think we have it all wrong when it comes to Balkan policy. We're repeating the failed policy of the past, which is to keep whatever is left of the former Yugoslavia together at all costs, and we're ignoring the anti-Albanian racism that lies at the heart of the problem. In the beginning of the annexation of Albanian lands in Montenegro by Montenegro through the ascent of the so-called great powers in 1878, you have a path that starts out with actual genocide. And my testimony documents that. The only thing that I want to bring to the attention of this assembled body now is a very famous massacre at Tivar, when 4,300 Kosovar Albanians, who were anti-fascist troops, being gathered by the Montenegrin and Serbian military, supposedly to fight in the last days against Hitler, were lured to Tivar, Montenegro, massacred on the spot. Their bodies were dumped into a quarry. I only learned about this a year ago from a member of the board of the Albanian American Civic League. It was forbidden to discuss this on pain of persecution and death. And I was very fortunate this summer to meet Azim Haydini, one of the few survivors, a lawyer who lives in Kosovo and has written this comprehensive account. It's only now, think about it, so this will be coming to the attention of the world because we will be translating this book into English and trying to uncover a buried history. After once the communist era ensues, then the patterns that we've talked about today here at this hearing of forced assimilation and immigration and the resettlement of Albanian lands by Montenegrin Slavs begins in earnest. And I'm not going to go into all the details that I've accounted for based on our delegation or on the ones that are included in a report that, however, I would like to submit for the record. It's a report on the status of Albanians in Montenegro that will, I think, be a good adjunct to Anton Lajcik's report. It documents the confiscation of land in detail, the highlights of it, and forced immigration patterns in the modern era.
That. I'll make sure that we include that as part of the record as well.
This is written by Nicole Vareshai, Montenegrin educator, and signed by several people, Montenegrin professionals, including Suma Dubretsi, who addressed Congressman Lantos this summer. One of the comments, though, and it's a side comment to a very factual report that this includes, is an incredible comment that I think captures the heart of what's going on. He said they, meaning the Montenegrin Slavs, have taught their children to hate ours and our children to hate themselves. And one of the things that did not come out completely, I think, in some of the earlier remarks is the absolute extent of anti-Albanian racism and the effort to make Albanian children feel that they are less than human beings. One of the members of our board who was sitting in our audience today, Pharaoh Jambalai, told me about the forced immigration of one of his relatives who overheard the Montenegrin military saying, "We are moving the animals tonight." There are patterns of forced immigration. Montenegro is unfortunately a center of activity in illegal documents, and immigration is encouraged. And if you are not asked to escort it out, especially if you've been an opponent, Marashin Sulai is here. He almost didn't make it out of the country for being a dissenter. He is also on our board. If that doesn't happen, what happens is a denial of resources. You've heard about the educational system, but also the denial of basic resources such as water, running water, and electricity and phone lines. Another incident that happened this summer that really grasped the heart of the issue, and I'll start to close now, is that all nation states seek some type of political control and engage in an attempt to respond to the needs of the majority group. But not all nation states engage in the kind of demographic engineering that Montenegro has engaged in, which is what has led to the population being diminished by 50% since World War II, and in some areas even more so just in the last 10 years. And it's very instructive that this summer members of the Albanian American Civic League were in one of the Albanian villages in Italy. Italy has 51 Albanian villages. Albanian is an official language in Italy, but Italy does not view the expression of language and heritage as a threat to its nation state. It views it as something that enriches it. This is exactly the opposite of what is happening, and I think we have to speak with a lot of our own official community about the language that we're using in human rights discourse. There is no language that seems adequate to capture this situation. Which leads me to my final point about how we have constructed Balkan policy since the fall of Milosevic. We have continued to allow, I believe, the central problems to persist: anti-Albanian racism and the quest for a greater Serbia. In the context of what has happened in the post-war era, we have allowed the Serbian propaganda machine to create a false parity between the victim and the perpetrator, and that has happened with the assent of many members of the European community. And unfortunately, the Bush administration, wanting to take a backseat to Europe, has gone along with this. Within this context, we hear the language of reconciliation and of conflict resolution. But that approach will not solve the problem and bring justice to the region. Only an independent Kosovo will bring justice to the region. Only, finally, the denazification and the democratization of Serbia will bring justice to the region. Time is running out once again in the Balkans, and I must say that it will only be the moral and political courage of people like Congressman Lantos in the US Congress that will make a difference. In the case of Albanians in Montenegro, it will be decisive. Unless there is a change in the human rights status, unless the international community is willing to grapple with the gross denial of human and civil rights, Albanians in Montenegro will cease to exist within 2 decades. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you so much for your testimony. We appreciate